Welcome to It Happened in Grand Prairie, Texas, as we bring you the history of our city and some of the people that have made history in the past, some that not only have made history in the past but are continuing to make history this very day. We are very excited to bring you our history tape number 613, and that's a magic number today because this is a history tape about a real historian who is going to dedicate and is beginning to dedicate some of his volunteer time after a fabulous career in the business world. And we're so pleased on this third day of March 2008 to bring you Mr. Lynn Motley. And I wish I had a better title than Mr. because he's really the president of the Grand Prairie Historical Organization, and so that's one title, but he has more that he won't divulge now, but maybe after this interview you'll see how very important this young man is, not only to Grand Prairie, but to Texas and to all of the historical things that have happened to the Motley family over the years. Lynn Motley, welcome to the set, young man.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Yes, we're so glad to have. Yes, it's great to have you with us. And talking about the Grand Prairie Historical Organization, and not only about the organization, but about your interest in it. And that's what's exciting to us.
Well, after I retired from Lockheed Martin, almost 38 years.
Doing?
Well, I retired, I started out as a lowlife, just at the bottom rung of
Isn't
the
that
ladder.
good?
It was in a way. And when I retired, I was a member of the President's staff and enterprise director, multi-site responsibility through a lot of sites at Lockheed Martin. And so it was a great career. It was time to go. And so after I retired, I wanted to be very careful about what I did in terms of, volunteer work.
Yes.
But I always had a great, love of history, love of Grand Prairie, and
Yes.
And so I chose the Grand Prairie Historical Organization to sort of be my first adventure into being a volunteer after
Yes.
working for so many years. And I'm really glad I did. It's
Yes.
a great organization, one that you helped found with my good friend Ray, the late Ray Phillips.
Yes.
And we really appreciate that. It's a great organization. We've had a great year. We've had a great year.
That's wonderful. Now, let's get back to a little bit more intimate interview. I'd like to know a little bit more about the real Lynn Motley, because I have seen the Motley signs over in Mesquite. And that's not Grand Prairie. What about that?
Well, my great-great-grandfather came to Texas in the 1850s. He came and bought 5 sections of land in Dallas County,
Yes.
one of which was over what is now on the campus of Eastfield College. That's built on Motley land.
Yes.
And we still have our cemetery there at Motley Drive in
Yes.
Mesquite.
Yes.
But one of the sections that he bought was here in Grand Prairie.
Yes.
And in fact, I still have the deed that's signed by Sam Houston.
Really?
Sam Houston, when he was governor of the state of Texas in March of 1861, my great-grandfather bought a section of land in Grand Prairie.
We've just done a salute
And
to Sam Houston this morning.
That's
He would
right.
have been 215 years old this year. Isn't that's a coincidence?
Coincidence.
Yes, it is.
And so, my great-grandfather, Robert Page Motley,
Yes.
and his wife, Sarah Emma Lawrence Motley,
Yes.
moved to Grand Prairie, and she was the founder of Southland Cemetery, as you
Yes.
know. And
That's
our family-
Old Southland.
Old Southland Cemetery, that's right.
Yes.
And so,
We have 2 Southlands, but the Old Southland Cemetery is the most historic one that we have in Grand Prairie, Texas, other than one out on 109th Street.
Yes. And so our family's been here for, since the 1860s, and of course my mother and dad, Jean and Marie Motley, as you know.
Yes.
I grew up on Motley Street,
Yes.
in Grand Prairie. And
the old Motley farmhouse is still there on Motley Street, and
Yes.
also the one that was the main big house.
yes, that
is-
was my great-grandfather's home place. It's still there on Southwest 3rd and Motley.
Oh, that is so beautiful.
Yes, and so, we have a long history of Grand Prairie. We've
Yeah.
been involved in Grand Prairie all our lives. Of course, I grew up here, as you know, and
Yes.
class of '64 at Grand Prairie High School.
Yes, but let's start back. What was the elementary?
Bowie Elementary. Went to Bowie Elementary, over to walked 3 miles in the snow to Lee Junior High School.
Yes.
And then on to Grand Prairie High.
Yes.
I used to tell people that, I went to, I was from South Grand Prairie, and I went to Grand Prairie High before there was a South Grand Prairie.
That's right.
And
Exactly.
so went to Grand Prairie High School, and then from there I went to University of Texas at Austin, and I graduated there. And then as soon as I graduated, I went to work for what later became Lockheed Martin.
All right. Now I need to get back to Grand Prairie High School.
Yes.
That's going to be an important, unless there was something really exciting that happened at Lee, that you had a mentor there that helped you set the stage for your lifetime career or happenings.
The person that, looking back over it, that I really admire, and it was really a real wonderful thing, is Hobbs Williams.
Yes.
Hobbs was assistant principal at Grand Prairie High when I was there as a sophomore, and I recall what great leadership skills Hobbs had. And later years, when I served on the board, on the school board,
Yes.
and it was my privilege to be president of the board when Hobbs became superintendent. And
Oh, wasn't that exciting?
Yeah, it was. And I recently heard where the board recently named an elementary school for Hobbs, and he certainly deserves it.
Yeah.
Terrific guy. He and Doris both were just great for Grand Prairie. Hobbs was a particularly great leader in Grand Prairie.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was a real treat for me.
That is just so wonderful that that you've followed his pattern.
Well, Hobbs was a great leader,
Yeah.
and I've always admired great leaders, and he certainly was one. There's no question about that.
Before he became a great leader, I understand that he was on a baseball team that won a state award. Is that true?
As I recall, I believe this is still correct. Hobbs went to the University of Texas at Austin, like I
Yes,
did,
yes.
and he held the highest batting average of a Texas baseball player, to this day.
To this very day?
I believe that's correct. I know it was back when I was on the board, and I think it
Yes.
probably still is. He was a terrific athlete,
Yes.
and he and Doris came to Grand Prairie back during
Yes.
the Chambers era when
Yes.
H.H. Chambers was superintendent, and served so many years, so many great years in the school district.
And you know he's a pilot.
Yes.
And he taught Mr. Dan Clemson and I at ground school, and I got my certificate at ground school, and then Mr. Jackson wouldn't let Dan and I both fly, so he let Dan be the pilot, but I have ground school with Hobbs Williams on my certificate, and isn't that exciting too?
That's good.
All right, now, at Grand Prairie High School, who was your mentor there? Was it still Hobbs, or was there someone else at Grand Prairie High School that got you on the right track?
Well, I think when Hobbs was there, I think the other person that I really admired was Tom Holly.
Tom Holly. Okay.
Tom was the principal there. When I was in grade school at Bowie Elementary, and
Yeah.
I was there the year after Bowie opened.
Uh-huh.
And in those days, Mr. Chambers, who was superintendent of schools, he took certain principals and had them open elementary schools because they were so good.
Yes.
And Tom Holly opened Bowie Elementary School the first year it was open, and I went there the second year it was open. And so I had known Mr. Holly for since all those years till I got to high school. And he was a strict sort of guy, which is not a bad thing with a bunch of teenagers. But Tom Holly was a fine man. He and Thelma both were just terrific servants of the school district, and I thought so much of him. He was a terrific guy. Another great role model for young people. And I think that's one of the things that's really been great about the Grand Prairie School District
Yes.
is the fact that over the years, not only during the time that I was there, but even up until today,
Yes.
there have been great role models in the school district for the
Yes.
young people that come through. And I think that's a part of
a
the
plus.
great heritage that this town has
Yeah.
that so many other towns do not have.
Yeah.
And so certain people like Bill Arnold, and I could go on and name many others, they've just been terrific role models for the young people growing up in this community over all the years, and that's a real positive thing. We're very fortunate to have that in Grand Prairie.
Yes. Now, are you an only child, or did you have siblings?
Oh no, only child. Yep.
Pampered, petted.
Well,
Yes.
my wife says I was spoiled, but you know,
All right.
I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But only child, and very fortunate to grow up in Grand Prairie.
All right, but
And-
now I know you have a family, so I'd like for you to name your family now
Well,
and
my
tell
wife-
me a little something about the family.
My wife grew up right around the corner from me, Tawny Chapman Motley. And
Chapman. She was a
She
Chapman.
was a Chapman, a twin, Tawny and Connie, and I married Tawny, and we have a son, Corey, and he's married to Jennifer, and I have two grandsons, two grandchildren, Chase, and my new little granddaughter, Peyton,
Oh,
who will
that's
be a year old in about a month and a half. And so
isn't that wonderful?
grandchildren, as you know, are absolutely the best thing in the world.
Oh, yes.
They're twice as good as your own children.
Yeah, because you can play with them and send them home.
And take them home. I just and spoil them. You know, my son tells me, he says, you know, I don't know whether you ought to buy that stuff for Chase. I said, let me tell you something here. The way this works is, I'm going to spoil your son. Okay, and so it has been just great. I've really grandchildren have been terrific for us. We've really enjoyed it.
Does Tawny work out of the home?
We're both retired.
You are.
We both retired. Tawny a little bit before I did, and
She worked?
And she worked for Vought Aircraft for
Vought.
over 30 years.
Oh, okay.
And so she had a great career down there in electrical design, and so it was. You know,
Perfect.
we've been very, very fortunate. Grand Prairie's always been our home, and we could have lived a lot of different places. And as you know, when I worked, I traveled extensively all
did.
over the world, and boy, was nothing better than coming home.
Yes.
And so Grand Prairie's my home, and it always has been, and to now have an opportunity to sort of give back to the community a little bit. By being, you know, with a historical organization, is very rewarding because you feel like you owe something, and this is a way to repay things for how good Grand Prairie's been to me and good to my family as well.
Are you a member of any organizations or churches or anything that get part of your life?
Well, Ty and I concentrate pretty much on our church, the Calvary Baptist Church,
yes.
where, as you know, this coming Friday we have the Lifeline
isn't that going to be wonderful?
concert. That's right. That's going to be great. A gospel concert at Calvary benefiting the Lifeline Family Shelter that Georgia is involved with, and Angela. And we have that this Friday at 7 o'clock on the 7th at Calvary. And Ty and I have been extensively involved in Calvary for a number of years. I'm a trustee of the church. We're both members of the choir. I'm a deacon of the Calvary Baptist Church and have been for over 30 years. And so it gets the lion's share of our attention.
Yes,
and,
it
and
does.
we love it. We really do. We have a wonderful young pastor, Brian Lovelace.
Yes.
He is absolutely magnificent pastor. And we did Judgment House for the first time this last fall, and we will be doing
I had them on this show.
It's a great thing. We had 2,743 people come through Judgment House in the fall at Calvary Baptist Church.
How good.
And it was wonderful. And we're going to be doing another production this coming fall, and we expect over 5,000 people will see that 5-act or that 5 or 7 scene drama
again.
that we do. So
That's
it's a great time. It was a good thing for our church too.
All right, now that's an exciting life. Just that much that you've explained what you're doing now with the historical organization in Calvary, that balances off with not very much time left for other things.
That's right. One of the things that I was sort of warned about before when I retired was that there would be a tremendous demand on your time.
That's true.
And you have to be kind of careful about what you pick and choose to do. And so, and I did. I got tremendous number of offers from all sorts of organizations and
clubs and groups,
and groups and everywhere else,
yes.
and consulting agreements and all that sort of thing. And so, but I wanted to be very careful because I wanted to devote a lot of time to really quality things and things that represented a way to give back to the community. The historical organization is one way to do that, and so I felt good about that. And so it's been a great year for us.
Is your historical organization going to work your way into the 100th birthday of Grand Prairie as a corporate city in 2009.
Yes. One of the things that we're going to do, and our next meeting, by the way, is on May the 15th. We're going to have that on May the 15th. It's going to be at the Retirement Center on Corn Valley Road, the
Okay.
Mountain Creek
Mountain Creek Retirement Center.
They're just immediately north of 303 on Corn Valley. We're going to try a different place. Of course, you know we've been meeting at RJC, and
Yeah.
and so we're going to meet there. We have a great program. Don't let me forget. I'll bring that up in
Yes.
just a moment. But we have that meeting, and at that meeting, we're going to form what we call our Centennial Committee.
Oh, good.
And our Centennial Committee is going to define the sort of things that we're going to do to help celebrate the 100th anniversary of the founding of the city of Grand Prairie, the incorporation of the city of Grand Prairie, and as you know, in March of 2009.
Yes.
And so the Centennial Committee will be leading that. I think one of the things that we're going to really try to concentrate on is the designation of historical sites. As you know, we have about 50 historical sites currently in Grand Prairie
Yes.
that we've designated. And we would really like to raise that number up significantly in the future.
Yes.
And so I think that's one of the areas that we're going to look
Good.
at. But there's some others as well. As you know, we have a new book that will be published shortly.
Yes.
Um,
If that can come out in 2009, that would be the icing on the cake,
Well,
wouldn't
we would believe it actually will be out shortly. It's called An Illustrative History of Grand Prairie.
it? Yes.
It was written by Kathy Goolsby, who is a writer, as you know, for the Dallas Morning News.
Yes.
It's the first time there's ever been a historical publication about Grand Prairie, and so we think that'll be a very positive thing. So we're looking sort of forward to selling our book. We don't have any pricing for it just yet, but we will have shortly. All the proceeds from our book sales will go into what we call our museum fund.
Okay,
we
you're
have
going
a-
to have a museum fund.
We have a museum fund that we have established, and so the profits from our book sales will go into our museum fund, which is a real critical fund for us. And so we're looking forward to that. The book will, we're hopeful the book, we thought it would actually be out earlier than it has been, but we think it'll be out in April. And if that is the case, then we'll have
a good time.
a
with
good
it.
time with it. That's
Yes,
right,
sir.
we sure will.
All right, now, by virtue of your office as president of the historical organization, aren't you on the historical commission as a non-voting member or something? Do you report to that so you get all of the straight dope that's coming off of that council-appointed historical committee?
Yes, I've attended all the meetings of the
Yes.
Historical Commission
Yes.
since I've been president, and the commission is now up to full membership status. One of the things the commission did, of course, was to establish a new program to guide tours through the Copeland home. That began in December and has now continued starting in February. The first Saturday of each month, there are guided tours between now and year's end of the Copeland home. And if for some of your viewers that haven't seen it and need to really see the Copeland home, it's like walking back in time.
It really is.
It's really marvelous. And one of the best things in the world happened to me when I was there. In December, we had an open house. And one of the things that Dr. Copeland kept was a list of all the children that he delivered.
Yes.
And so I went over this book and I flipped through
And you found it.
I found my mother's name.
It
She was the last child delivered in 1915 by Dr. Copeland.
isn't that good?
And
Marie was it,
Yes,
wasn't
that's
she?
right. Marie, her name was Marie Darty, as you know.
Yes.
And so I found my mother's name, and that was a really special time for me. And so the home is in great shape, and the guided tours sort of take people back in time, and it's a great thing. And we're supporting that as well. We have tour guides that will be supporting. We did it in December with volunteers, and we'll be doing more of that throughout the year, as will the Grand Prairie Arts Council. So that's a great opportunity for people to get a little piece of history in Grand Prairie on a continuing basis, month to month.
Well, one thing about it, they had to take the Arts Council and tutor them to be docents, but you have ready-made docents in your historical organization that know more about Grand Prairie than I do.
The thing that's really nice about it, we have some of the tour guides that we're going to use, of course, knew the Copelands very well.
Yes.
Billy Joe Armstrong, for instance, is
Yes.
one of our volunteers, and he
Uh-huh.
lived next door to the
to 'em.
Copelands.
Yes, he did, in the
And so that's
Seroptimus
right.
house.
So,
Yes.
you know, they can bring tales and stories to the tour that many people that haven't lived here all their lives can't do. And so that'll be a good thing. That's a really good thing for us.
Well, your service on the school board, what brought you into that? What piqued your interest in that? Because you were working real hard, you were a parent.
You know, probably a weak moment. It was a weak moment. My gracious, I was 31 years old.
Yes, one of the youngest that was ever president.
I think the second youngest ever elected.
Yes.
I believe Alan Brown, who I served with, was the youngest.
Yeah.
But I believe I was the second youngest when I was elected. And you know, I had children in school, and I really, and I still to this day care about education. I think it's one of the keys to long-term success of virtually anybody. I know it made such a tremendous difference in my life.
Yes.
And it can make the difference in the lives of thousands of school children every day in Grand Prairie. And so I served for quite a few years. Dan and I served together,
Yes,
as
you
you may
did.
recall.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. I don't know if I'd ever do that again. Because it can be, it's a difficult thing.
Yes, it is.
It takes
That
a
is
tremendous
very
commitment.
hard work.
It is. It takes a tremendous commitment. And at the time, I was, you know, trying to work and travel and family and do that. And
Yes.
it was very difficult. And as I look back on it, I kind of wonder how I got through it. But I did, and it was a rewarding experience. And so I'm glad I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I did it.
And your family was so historically bound because your mom had a brother that was mayor of Grand Prairie.
John
Texas.
Darty was mayor of Grand Prairie, yes.
Her
That's
big
right.
brother.
Yes. And an interesting story. I never will forget this story. Marshall Warder, who you knew very
Yes.
well, and a very good friend of mine, Marshall Warder Sr.,
Senior.
told me one time, he said, John Darty's the only man I ever knew in my life that when he walked down Main Street in Grand Prairie, people would cross over the street in traffic just to shake his hand.
Just to shake his hand, say hi.
He had an absolute charismatic personality.
Yes, he did.
And he was mayor of Grand Prairie in a really tumultuous era in the
Yes.
early 50s.
When the young whiz kids came along.
That's right, when the whiz kids came along,
Yes.
and tumultuous era, but it was you know, a good time, and so lot of service in our family on both sides of my family in Grand Prairie.
Yes, because John Darty's daughter married the son of a former mayor, so we had mayor's children marrying each other.
That's
And
right.
I thought that was very exciting
Yeah,
because
Owita
Owita Darty
Carlson Jr.
and Carlisle Jr.
Right.
married, and I thought all of the history that in your family, that if y'all document all of that, it will be one of the most
Well,
illustrious
one of the things
ones.
we've asked WIDA to do
Yes.
is to develop a story for our newsletters. As you know, in the
Yes.
Grand Prairie Historical Organization, when you become a member, and you can become a member for $15 a year.
Yeah.
Our life memberships are $200, and they're really the best deal.
Yes.
But for $15 a year, you can become a member of the historical organization. And each quarter, we meet 4 times a year, and each quarter we put out a newsletter. The newsletters have been terrific. Our last newsletter.
And the editor is?
Brian Bingham.
Oh, let's give him a plug
Brian
here.
does an absolute terrific
Yes.
job, and our last newsletter had a great story about Durwood Sutton
The
and
Sutton
his family,
family,
the
yes.
Sutton family. What
Oh.
a terrific story that was.
Terrific.
And we've asked Owita Smith to develop a piece for one of our newsletters about the Smith and the Darty family in Grand Prairie as well. And so our newsletters are becoming sort of a historical record
Yes, they are.
of people and events in Grand Prairie, and they have really been great. We have something brand new. We have a new website.
Good.
Our new website is gphistorical.com. And it's up and running now, and we have a whole bunch of things on there. We have the application forms if you'd like to have a historical site designated. We have all our application forms on our
Yeah.
website. We have historical pictures on our website. We have meeting notices, so somebody can go visit gphistorical.com and get a lot of information about the Grand Prairie Historical Organization. And so we're really excited about that as a communication tool, along with our newsletters, which we still mail out to everyone that is a member of the organization.
Yes.
It's a great way to communicate, and so we're looking forward. At our May 15th meeting, again, that's at the Mountain Creek Retirement Center.
Yes.
We're going to honor all of our life members.
Well, good.
And we have a special presentation. We have about 40 or so current life members, and we're going to make a special presentation to all of them that are there that day. And so that's a special time for us, because we have a tremendous wonderful group of life members, and we want to honor them for their service to Grand Prairie and to the organization.
And do you have a board?
We do. Immediate past president is Angela Sutton Gessner,
Yes.
who Angela and I went to high school together.
Yes.
And Angela actually is the one that taught me into this thing.
I'm going to give her a brownie point for that.
So Angela actually talked me into this thing, and then Carol Liggett Bell
Yes.
is our treasurer, and
Yeah.
Carol does a terrific job for us.
Terrific entrepreneur in business.
She really is. She and Grant have done a terrific
Yes, they
job,
have.
and of course Brian Bingham is our vice president,
Yes.
and handles our newsletter and our program, and does a terrific job on everything we've asked him to do. And then Susie Martin Roberts is our
Oh, yeah.
is our secretary and our treasurer, and so we just have we have a great group that have really been committed to sustaining the organization and growing the organization. Strategically, one of the things we've obviously tried to do over the last year, and the thing that we'll be doing as time goes along, is sort of raising the profile of the organization in Grand Prairie. We all share a great heritage.
Yes, we do.
And this is one way that you can participate in sort of giving back a little bit to Grand Prairie for the things that maybe Grand Prairie made a difference in your life. And so if some of your viewers out there would like to become a part of the organization, we'd welcome them to visit our website or come to one of our meetings.
Log on. I'll say it. Log on.
Log on and,
Yeah.
and get with us, and we'll show you a great time. We have a great program planned for May. We have Jim Gatewood coming back,
Yes.
who is a marvelous storyteller.
Yes.
And he is going to come back and do a presentation in May.
Well, I'd like for you now to look out into your camera and talk to this camera and invite anyone that really wants to get revved up on history to get onto the website and then become a member.
Well, it is a great opportunity. The Grand Prairie Historical Organization is dedicated to the heritage that we all serve, and that we all have, and that has served us so well over all the years. And it's easy to become a member. It only costs $15 a year. You get a great newsletter 4 times a year from that. In addition to that, you can come to our meetings, have a good lunch, and
They get to pay for it too, don't they?
and you can get to pay for it, but it's worth every dime.
Every dime of it.
And so you can visit our website at gphistorical.com. There's a whole bunch of things on there for you to look at, things for you to see, including a whole group of historical pictures. And if you have a historical picture you'd like to share with us, we'd very
Yes.
much like to have it.
Yes, or a copy of it.
Or a copy of it. It would be great, because one of the things we're trying to do is to establish a real photographic history of Grand Prairie, along with other things. And
things.
so that would be great.
I want to thank you for being here.
Thank
We're
you.
under the wire. I appreciate you, Lynn Motley.
Thank you, ma'am.
God bless you and history and everything in Grand Prairie, Texas.
Thank you for having us.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do, and that we document it correctly. Thank you for being with us today.